Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. It is still partially Halloween, and a very scary man has just appeared in front of me. It's Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Delighted to say he's back for his second stint of the week. Very good morning to you.
Very good morning,
and
Mike.
a happy Halloween, I suppose I should say.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Thank you very much indeed. Great to be here. Some real weirdos out in the streets tonight. And by the way, during the course of talking to you tonight, I'm going to have a real whinge and moan about traffic in and around London. Anybody out there who's ever thinking of moving to live in London, don't. Stay in the north of England. Stay in Northumberland, the least populated county in this country. Saw a show with Robson Green the other night, traipsing around Northumberland. That's where I'm going. I've already got my holiday home
or at least if you are going to come down here, don't bring a car.
Don't bring a car. Fly to Southampton or something like that. Fly over London, but don't bother coming to London. Believe me, the roads. You know, I might have been flashed by a camera a couple of times tonight. It wasn't my fault.
Okay.
It was, taxis racing around on either side.
Yeah, all right. Well, calm down. We'll get to that a bit later on. Let's talk about football.
Congestion charge
never
bills
mind all that.
flowing in.
Never mind all that. Just calm down, relax,
right,
okay? I want you to talk about football first because you've got very excited about this Rangers story that you spotted over the course of the day.
Well, I haven't got excited about it, but it's very interesting. I think Rangers are something like the 14th biggest club in Europe by dint of crowds and turnover and all that kind of stuff. I saw a bloke on the telly tonight alleging that £22 million of investment money went into Rangers like a few months ago and it's disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, what is going on at Rangers?
Nobody really knows what's going on at Rangers.
Nobody knows what's going on.
It's a very bizarre situation indeed.
Very bizarre.
And what was interesting for me, I saw Graham Courtney, your old mate, the other day.
Graham, know him well.
After that Newcastle result.
Got me a seat in the Sunderland director's box a couple of seasons ago. Good man.
Yeah. Are you welcome back there again? Or
yes.
There a story
Guess who I was sitting next to?
Who?
David Miliband.
Oh, really?
Because in those days, David Miliband was a director of Sunderland.
They must miss him now that he's gone off to New York to make his fortune.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Such a big football fan as well.
Yeah.
I wonder if he keeps in touch with them.
I doubt that very much indeed, because his objection was to Di Canio coming and the fascist, background of Di Canio.
Right.
It certainly wouldn't have coincided with his father's beliefs, would it, eh?
It certainly wouldn't have done, no, absolutely not. Now, let's talk about this, though, because Graham Courtney said to me that there's no doubt that Mike Ashley, the Newcastle boss, is very, very interested in Rangers. He's moving some of his money into Rangers.
Hasn't he got a percentage of Rangers anyway?
He has already, yeah.
A small one, 3%?
He has, but the belief is that he wants to build that because he's kind of lost interest in Newcastle. He now wants to look at Rangers as a much bigger opportunity for him.
You might sell Newcastle and buy Rangers?
Well, he might do that, but he might also, Graham thinks he's just going to put more of basically his view is that there's no point in putting 20 or 30 million into Newcastle, buying any new players, because it's only going to get them up to, say, 12th place or something like that.
Très intéressant.
Pardon?
Très intéressant.
What's that?
Very interesting.
Yes, is that French?
Yeah, I get the
so
David
you've been hanging around with David Ginola.
Oh, David is my new friend. I nearly went for a glass of vino.
I'm slightly worried, actually, about David Ginola, because I tuned into some of your interaction with him on Wednesday mornings, as you always have them. And I think you're starting to send him mad, because when he first started doing the show, he was quite normal. Now he's singing songs.
He's just got a skip in his heart.
He's singing songs. He's doing these kind of romantic, how to score a goal.
He's got a skip in his stride and a flutter in his heart when he sees me walking through that studio, because we communicate, Mike. Getting back to Rangers, right?
Yeah.
Can I just say this to you? Did you not once have a very good relationship with Mr. Murray, the former chairman of Rangers?
That's true, I did, yeah.
So you
I don't like to talk about that very much, but thanks for pointing it out.
Well, I think I should.
Why?
Because you were one of his...
Well, I had a working relationship with him, let's put it that way.
Oh, rubbish. You were one of his sort of lickspittles,
weren't
you?
True.
In the hierarchy...
Absolutely not true.
You were a newspaper...
I refute that, absolutely.
You were a newspaper editor in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Of a very small circulation newspaper, I have to say, but nevertheless...
Thank you.
And you got into the Glasgow hierarchy, and you started sidling up to David Murray.
You know as well as I do, when you mix in those kind of situations, like whether you're in Cardiff, whether you're in Belfast, whether you're in Glasgow or Edinburgh, there's a certain sort of coterie of people that you get to know. You meet each other at parties, you meet each other at events.
Yeah.
There's no way for you to suggest...
Free booze on tap.
For you to suggest in some way that I was in his pocket is absolutely outrageous. I was not in his pocket at all.
I think some stories didn't get into your paper sometimes because of the old, scratch
the funny handshake.
I scratch your...
absolutely not true.
Yeah, pulling the sock up and all that kind of stuff.
To make.
Is it pulling the sock up that the Masons do, is it?
I don't know, I'm not a Mason.
Yeah, I think, don't they pull their trouser leg up or something?
I think they do,
Scratch their leg or something
I think they do. Well, that would be difficult for him to do, of course, because he doesn't have any legs.
Well, I wasn't waiting for you to do that. Of course he had legs, they just weren't like human legs. But he had other legs.
He had them amputated after a car crash.
I know, when he was a very young man. And still went on to make nearly £1 billion in steel trading.
He was quite a remarkable character, actually.
What a boy.
Quite a remarkable character.
Anyway, go on.
But, the whole thing about Rangers and Celtic, when I was in Glasgow, Rangers and Celtic was still very much the two forces of football.
Two giants.
Which not only affected the football world, but affected the entire kind of political spectrum of Scotland as well. And And in fact, funnily enough, I was at Celtic far more often than I was at Ibrox.
Oh, were you?
So, yeah.
Oh, you had a mate at Celtic as well?
I had somebody who had a box at Celtic. I used to go there quite regularly.
I had a mate who had a box there as well. Kilcoyne brothers. They built houses all over Scotland, you know, pointing and brickwork and that kind of stuff. Dedicated Celtic fans. In fact, on one occasion, they were so pleased to see me, they took me on a tour of the stadium, like a 2-hour tour, and even took me and had my picture taken by the statue of Father somebody or other who invented the club. You must know his name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
You know, he's outside there, that statue, yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, I see. So you know Celtic so well, you don't know the name of the founder.
So I went to the games quite often.
He was a monk. He was a guy who rowed over on a boat from Ireland.
I think he was a Franciscan, wasn't
he? Yeah, he the tale is he rowed over in a rowing boat, I think.
A coracle.
On his own. Maybe a coracle. I heard you mocking me about a coracle.
Yeah, we were talking about that a bit earlier.
Anyway, please go on.
But were you not attacked once by Rangers fans?
Well, they were actually Celtics fans at Rangers, funnily enough. What happened was, it was the usual story. Mr. Brazil set me up, you know, for a fall, as he always does. We were going up as guests of... I think it was McEwen. Were McEwen's the sponsors a few years back?
They were.
And I think we got up as guests, and we went from somewhere like Stansted Airport or Luton or something, and we saw Alex McLeish coming the other way.
Right.
He'd got off the plane we were getting onto, and he'd just been appointed Rangers manager.
Right.
And, you know, Alan and Big Eck, as he's known as, played in the World Cup in 1982 in Spain together.
Right.
Big mates and all that. And I remember his famous quote, "I am really looking forward to it. All I've got to do is win every game," you know, and...
it is a very high-pressure job.
Yeah, but the point of the story is, I'd forgotten my tie, and I said to Al, Al, we're going to need a tie in the director's box. He said, yeah. I said, he said, let's go to Tyra. I went to Tyra, and he picked one off right away and said, this'll do, Porky. You got a blue suit, haven't you? I said, yeah. He said, no. And Al paid for it and gave it me. He said, yeah, it's a present from me. What I didn't realise was, it was blue, white and red, the tie. Broad stripes.
The Rangers tie.
Well, it could have been, to all intents and purposes, an official Rangers tie. And when we got to Ibrox and I stepped out, the car dropped us at the Celtic end. It dropped us at the away end.
Yeah.
And as I got out and heard all this booing, I thought, that must be Al.
Right.
You know, because obviously we're at Rangers and Al was Celtic Boys Club record scorer.
Right.
And then a hail of oranges came over, smashed me all over the face and the head. And it was because I was wearing a Rangers tie. We were at the Celtic end. It was a setup.
So what's puzzling you so much about this guy McCall who wants to buy into Rangers then?
Well, that's not puzzling me. What's puzzling me is what is going on at Rangers, which is a mighty institution, you quite rightly say. Most people don't know that they're not even affiliated to Glasgow. They are the Rangers Football Club, aren't they? They're just called Rangers.
Yeah.
And they call themselves the British club, is that right?
Of course they do, yeah. But of course now there's slight confusion because there are some who are not Rangers fans who say Rangers doesn't exist anymore because now it's the new company. And of course Rangers fans will say, no, that doesn't matter. We're still Rangers.
Well, Ibrox is still there.
Ibrox is
still
there.
a magnificent stadium. You know, it still looks fantastic and all that kind of stuff. But they're going to have to do something about it because, for instance, Ali McCoy I know very well. We got on the plane once, right? We're going north, Al and I, and we were at the front of the plane, and you know, it's not a very long flight, obviously. Once it levelled out, the ping went off, you know, fasten your seatbelts and all that. This fella staggers up from the back, not staggers, the plane was still on an incline, so I suppose he was staggering, and it was Ali McCoy.
Yeah.
And actually, it wasn't a great day for him, because he'd just come from the High Court in London, like, you know, after the settlement on his divorce, and basically, he was flying up to Scotland, and I'm sure Ali won't mind me saying this, with pretty empty pockets, you know. It was a great day, so we helped him to get over the pain.
Oh, very good, I'm sure you did. Now, we're going to talk about more Celtic matters, because you think the biggest game of the weekend is not actually Everton's game, but it's Cardiff versus Swansea, which is down in...
I think it's going to be the most controversial game of the
Wales.
weekend. I've been doing some research on this, and these guys send each other razor blades in the post and all kinds of things. A nasty, you know, really atmosphere can surround that game.
It can. We're going to talk about that coming up next with Mike Porky Parry. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. I'm with Mike Porky Parry. He's sitting in with us. I'm delighted to say, by the way, that our podcast of this half hour is now available on iTunes.
It certainly is.
People want to go to iTunes and download it. It's called The Two Mics, and you can find it there every time we do this, which is twice a week, of course, on a Monday night and a Thursday night. Is it on the old
Facebook as well, Mike, and all that?
It will be, yeah. It's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's everywhere,
Excellent,
basically.
excellent.
So we'll be telling people how they
Because I want to hit a worldwide audience, you know?
Yes.
I do believe that TalkSport is the worldwide sports radio show.
Well, it is.
And without a shadow of a doubt.
It's the biggest sports radio station in the world.
Of course it is.
That's exactly what it is. Now, while we're talking about Celtic matters, and we're talking about Cardiff Swansea coming up, Malcolm Mackay's on the breakfast show this morning. Interesting piece in the paper this week about how apparently, according to the Archbishop of Canterbury, we, as in the English, have ill-treated the Scots for 800 years.
I couldn't believe what he said. What's the name of the Archbishop of Canterbury again?
The Archbishop of Canterbury is the Most Reverend Justin Welby.
Yeah, and he used to be an oil baron, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
And now he's, this is his background is a bit sort of flaky as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
with the greatest of respect, Your Honour.
He just hasn't always been a clergyman. That's the point. And sometimes what we say is it's better that people like politicians and clergymen come from other walks of life.
That's a good point.
Because they've experienced other things.
But he's going on there about William Wallace being a great guy.
Yeah.
William Wallace, right, was a drunken, sheep-stealing wastrel who, suddenly, got lucky on some battle somewhere and suddenly became a hero of the Scots. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean,
only because he was 6'6" and every other Scotsman in the day was 4'11".
Well, your view of him is something that wouldn't be shared by an awful lot of Scottish people, because there's a William Wallace monument to him in Stirling. There's all sorts of monuments to him around the country.
But most people know that he was
the champion of independence.
Champion of independence. Most people know that he was a write-off and. He'd have been a highwayman if it hadn't been for the fact that at the time the English were invading a bit of Scotland just to try and bring law and order to the whole of the United Kingdom.
They found it was quite difficult to do.
Yeah, and he got lucky, didn't he, on one or two skirmishes?
Yeah, well, I mean, apparently he referred to them as English warmongers and job cutters, asset strippers and mortgage fritters.
This is the Archbishop,
and welfare bashers and bedroom taxers, yeah.
The Archbishop? It does say somewhere in the report I read that it might have been tongue-in-cheek. I blinking well hope so, because otherwise that is incredibly prejudiced towards the English.
Well, it raises the temperature slightly as well on the whole independence debate, doesn't it? Well, which is not that far away now.
Yeah, and look, with the greatest respect to my friends in Scotland, for the vast majority of the time, wealth is created in the southeast of England and channelled north to try and help stimulate the economy of Scotland. That's a very nice way of putting it, isn't it?
It's a very nice way of putting it. The Scots, of course, would disagree. They would say they generate their own money. But that's another argument for another day. Let's talk about Cardiff and Swansea.
Let's talk about Cardiff and Swansea.
Great story on the back of the papers today about this recruitment specialist who's at Cardiff. He's been told, basically, that he doesn't have the right visa, and now he may have to stop doing whatever recruitment he has been doing, which I can't believe is much anyway.
He might have to leave the country.
Yeah.
Home Office tackled Cardiff's Kazaki. Cardiff City's controversial appointment of Alsha Aspalayamov as the head of recruitment took a farcical turn yesterday when 23-year-old was told to stand down by the Home Office. Who's Kazaki then?
No, he's from Kazakhstan.
Oh, of course.
So because he's from Kazakhstan, they call him a Kazaki.
I thought his name was... I wondered who Kazaki was. Did I hear right that Malcolm Mackay's coming on the Alan Brazil breakfast show?
That's what he's supposed to be doing in the morning, yeah.
Well,
so
he'll get to the source of the issue.
He'll be able to answer quite a lot of questions, but he's in a difficult position. Cardiff-Swansea is going to be a huge game, as you say. A couple of people have already tweeted in saying this is the biggest game of the weekend, but there's a lot of great big games at the weekend, and I'm saying Arsenal-Liverpool.
Oh, no, this is the biggest... Is this on Sunday? It's 4 o'clock Sunday.
I think it is.
Prize game of the weekend. Answer me this question, Mike, because you used to live in Cardiff and work in Cardiff. Why do you have to pay to get into Wales, but you don't have to pay to get out?
That's just the way it works.
No, it's not.
It's just the way it works.
So the English...
There's plenty of bridges around the world that you pay a toll on, and you happen to pay it one way and not the other.
No. So the English have to pay a tax to enter Wales, but the Welsh don't have to pay a tax to enter England.
No, but they have to pay a tax to go back.
But not many people, when they leave Wales, want to go back.
That's rubbish. That is absolute rubbish. Why would you want to malign an entire country? I think that's absolutely wrong. No, it's just. I mean, people who are ignorant, in my view, make that sort of point and say, why is it that we have to pay to go to Wales? Wales is a fantastic place. I had a wonderful time when I worked in Cardiff.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
When I went to Cardiff once, it was for one of the cup finals. 6 cup finals were played there, and then closed down. I did a show in a Cardiff pub, and I was nearly beaten to death by leaks. I'm not joking. I'm not. Honestly.
Why is it that every story of every place that you go to ends up with you being attacked by somebody?
I don't know. It started off with Chelsea fans, because Chelsea were in the cup final, throwing celery at me, and that was quite good.
Why were they throwing celery?
Because they do. They have a thing about celery. They have a song, don't they?
Do they?
Yeah, Chelsea have a song. Celery. Oh, I don't know what it's all about. But anyway,
it's about celery, presumably.
It's about celery, actually. Funny enough, and that was quite good natured. So a few bits of celery were bouncing off the bonds and all that, and I knotting them away. You know, I was joining in. I was broadcasting at the same time while I was heading bits of celery. You know, you can imagine the scene in a crowded Cardiff pub on the day of the FA Cup final. Then the Welsh boys decided they could do better. They suddenly disappear and come back with bags, I mean sackloads of leeks, you know, they'd got from the market round the corner.
Yeah.
They hurled them at me in such a fashion I ended up with bruises on my face.
This is not going to happen when we go to Crystal Palace next weekend, is it? I'm going to start. I'm going to bring an umbrella or something in case we are under attack from something.
Well, it could do. I don't know. People seem to. I don't know what it is. I go places and people just have this strange fascination with wanting to beat me up, which I think is dreadful.
I can understand why people would want to do that. Now, here's another Welsh angle for you. I don't know if you saw the story earlier in the week about the lovely Catherine Jenkins, the opera singer, who's an amazing woman, a fantastic
beautiful
voice.
Woman. I've seen her sing the national anthem at the Millennium Stadium.
Okay, and she's great at that. But apparently she suffers from something called nocturnal lagophthalmos, which means that she sleeps with her eyes open.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about sleep, because your sleep pattern is very weird. Now that you've started working with me on overnights, right? You don't seem to sleep at all.
Well,
quite often you ring me up during the day. I'm sleeping because I have to catch up on my sleep. You don't seem to sleep at all.
Well, how can I put this? The greater body mass you have, the more sleep you need.
Rubbish.
So I don't need a lot, but no, I don't, and I have responsibility. As you know, I'm part of a duck conservancy programme. So,
Duck conservancy.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with looking after?
Do ducks sleep?
Well, yeah, they do.
How do they sleep then?
They
With
sleep
their eyes open or closed?
They sleep on water, and the reason they sleep on water is they're not eaten by foxes.
Right. Very sensible.
And we've got a few duck houses, but not big enough for all of them. But they do.
Do they sleep with their eyes open or closed? You don't know, do you?
Well, how would I know, man? Because I don't go around, looking at them through binoculars.
Because you're a member of a
the
duck conservancy. Surely this is an important piece of information.
They sleep with literally their chins and their beaks resting on their sort of breasts, so to speak. And you can't see their eyes anyway, because their heads are down. So the answer is I'm not sure about that. But the point is with the sleep thing, all of us, haven't we, in our younger days, have had that moment when you think this relationship's not going right. Seen a lady fly into a furious sort of temper before you go to bed, and had to sleep with one eye open for fear, right,
of being attacked.
That's the one eye, fear of being attacked in the middle of the night, haven't we?
That's the only time I've ever been attacked. Actually, it was by my ex-wife.
Well,
I made a mistake falling asleep, and I woke up. She was punching me.
No.
Yeah.
No.
She was. Really hard as well.
I got smashed in the face with a book one night, but fortunately I did have the one eye open system. No, and I managed to sort of turn away at the last moment, hit me on the back of the head, not the front, it would have broken my nose. So the answer to that is, yeah, you can sleep with one eye open.
Well, that's not what she does. She sleeps with both eyes open. It's not so much wide open, but you can't fully close your eyes. And funny enough, David Ginola was saying that one of his children suffers from the same thing.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was on the breakfast show the other day.
Oh, I was on the breakfast show with him, and I didn't hear that. But anyway, there you go. Just get back to the Welsh thing for 1 minute, Mike. Why are the signs written in Welsh all over Cardiff and Swansea?
It's part of the Welsh Language Act.
But nobody speaks Welsh.
Well, loads more people speak Welsh than you would think, actually. In fact, the further west you go in Wales, the more Welsh is actually spoken. If you get all the way over to Llanelli, almost everybody's speaking Welsh.
Llanelli?
Yeah.
But don't you think it's a terrible insult to the Welsh nation to have to put dual language road signs all over the place? It's almost saying all these Welsh people are too thick to speak the most widely spoken language in the world, which is English.
No.
It is. It is an insult to the Welsh nation. I don't like the Welsh being insulted.
No, the Welsh are not being insulted. The Welsh have decided that they want to have Welsh being a spoken language, even though in many respects...
But nobody speaks it.
Well, loads more people speak it than you would know.
Mike,
if you go to the Millennium Stadium now and you go to, say, a Wales-England game in rugby, they're singing the Welsh national anthem in Welsh. They're putting up...
If you're driving round Cardiff and you see a sign saying, Chrissy goff, 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 nobody knows what that means.
Well, you obviously don't know what it means.
I don't know what it
well,
means,
you can tell what it means because there's an English version just above it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So how insulting is that to the Welsh, so they're too thick to be able to understand English?
A friend of mine, actually, who was English, who lived just over the border in Wales, quite near Newport, he was very upset because he had to send his children to school in Wales and they were forced to learn Welsh.
Well,
so they teach it in school.
That is like, do you know what that's like? That's like flying to Rome, the eternal city, Arrivederci Roma, and it's like coming out of the airport and saying Via Venetia.
Well, the signs in Italy are in Italian, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's like having it written in Latin. That's what I'm saying is that the original language of Italy was Latin, right? That's where it started, the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
So what the Italians don't ask for signs in Latin as well as Italian, do they?
No, they don't.
No, of course they don't. So why do the Welsh ask for signs in?
Well, because the Welsh
But I don't think the Welsh do. I think nutty politicians ask for it.
Well, no, the Welsh say that, look, this is our language, but it's been taken over by English because we were conquered by the English and we'd like to reclaim our old language back. That's all.
I'm not sure about right, talking about road signs, I got upset with a few road signs.
Yeah, tell us
today.
about your drive-in.
Well,
You
most
said
of
you had a bit
most
of a
of them
problem.
said diversion, right? Most of them said diversion. So, for those lucky enough not to live in London, when I come in from either Stockbroker Belt, which I live some of the time, or the South Coast, where I live some of the time, you have to come up through South London. You come through a place called Brixton, which was very famous for riots.
Yes.
Yes, I did
1981.
I did the Brixton riots.
Did you?
At the height. It was burning. I was dodging...
Quite dangerous.
I was dodging petrol bombs. I was dodging burning buildings falling on top of me.
Yeah.
I was dodging police charges with batons into crowds of unruly youths. I mean,
Must be quite scary.
At the same time, I did the riots in Liverpool, in Manchester, in Hull. I was riot specialist. And in Liverpool's the worst. When
Do you think they were trying to tell you something at the paper?
Well, they probably were.
One of these days he won't come back.
Yeah, he won't come back. In Liverpool, they set fire to a concrete mixer.
This is in Toxteth.
In Toxteth, absolutely. Toxteth's on a hill as you come away from Liverpool city centre. They nicked a concrete mixer, set fire to it and pushed it down the hill. And guess who was at the bottom of the hill? Yeah, wow.
Again, another story about how you're always under attack.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah,
seriously worried about this trip to the
no, but
football.
honestly, the state of London roads is disgusting. First of all, there's too many potholes all over the place. Do you know, I've heard cars being advertised now with reinforced suspension in case of potholes and all that. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
We've given up the battle against
Taxis
potholes.
now have to be fixed up about once every 6 months because all their wheel alignments get knocked out.
Absolutely right. We've given up the fight against potholes. It's a third world country attitude. Anyway, point is, so it's diversion all over the place. So what happens? I try to turn right where you shouldn't because of a sign, otherwise I've got to go on a 2-mile diversion.
Right.
You've got people shouting at you, screaming at you. But the worst thing are these cameras all over the place. If you lose a minute's concentration driving in London, you get a camera flashing you for speeding, or you get a camera flashing you for being in a bus lane.
In a bus lane,
or
most of the traffic problems in London are caused by bus lanes. There's never anybody in the bus lane.
Of course
There's
they
a huge traffic jam going down the other side.
Unbelievable. And do you know what, mate? If somebody in front of you is trying to turn right, and the car behind you is getting anxious and hooting you, if you move left into the bus lane, you will get photographed and you get fined.
Yeah.
But the worst one's the congestion charge. The congestion charge is a racket.
What is it now? It's about 13 quid or something, isn't it?
It's 10 quid you pay on the day and 12 quid you pay on the day after.
Yeah.
Now, I've only twice missed paying it within that time period. And that's 135 quid.
Ridiculous.
135
well, all you've got to do
fine.
is go online before you enter London, though, and do it there. Can you do it there?
You can't do that in the middle of the night, man, when you're busy and you're trying to get things done. Because
there's no congestion charge at night anyway.
There is if you're coming in the night and then go home during the day, which I sometimes have to do when I work with Brazil and this sort of stuff. And what I'm saying is, you get fined on these things. I'm even getting fined now for ones I've paid. I'm not joking. I got a load of, stuff today which said you haven't paid this, 135.
You just need to organise your life better.
I do organise my life. It's the half bakes who are, supposed to be processing it at the other end who don't get it right, and I'm getting fed up. I'm getting blinking fed up of the old, the prison-like environment in which London has become.
Well, it's not just London, let me tell you, because I was driving in from Sussex earlier on, and they were doing some roadworks on the A21. The A21 famously is a very, very narrow, just two-way road. It comes all the way down from like Hastings down the coast, and it comes up into the M25. And the point is that there was a resurfacing thing going on, and I sat stationary in one of these behind a temporary traffic light for 45 minutes.
I can't believe that.
45 minutes.
Well, why wasn't the light changing?
Because it was one of these things where you were led by a convoy, a guy in a sort of a flashing vehicle. So they were letting everybody else come the other way because they were coming out of London and I was going in. So I suppose they thought there's more people going the other way, so we'll let them. It was absolutely
unbelievable. You lose the will to live.
You do.
You lose the will to live. Move to Northumberland, everybody. Clean air, River Coquet.
River what?
Forest, the River Coquet. It's the
Coquet?
river in...
as in the Hokey Coquet?
Hokey Coquet, that's right. Kielder Dam, Kielder Forest, it's all there. I'm emigrating to the north, east.
People will be very happy to hear that. I'm emigrating to the north, east. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Porky Parry will be back, of course, with us on Monday night. We'll have loads more to talk about then.